thanks for being the very first guest on Oldtime
right
Central.
I'm honored.
I'm glad you could make it.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I just wanted to start by asking how you got into playing Oldtime, I guess.
Okay. So I grew up with a musical father, this fella Matt Turino, and he's a banjo player, an accordion player, and guitar player when I was growing up. And he played old-time tunes since the time he was in his 20s. And so when I was about 7 years old, and I was interested in learning to play fiddle, and I don't know, he always wanted to play fiddle and did not up until actually more recently. And so I don't know if I was influenced by his subtle desire, but apparently I asked to play the fiddle when I was about 7 years old, so I started playing at that time, and I got some lessons for a little while, but ended up after about 2 years, my teacher left, and basically at that point on, I was just learning tunes and playing with him, and learning from recordings a lot, and had some family friends that played music, so we'd play various fiddle styles and things like that together. But Oldtime was definitely probably the primary repertoire that we kind of drew from. So
because there was lots of different kinds of music around the house. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
How did it? Why fiddle or why Oldtime? You know.
I mean that's one of the things. That was one of the genres. My dad plays lots of different types of music, but that was kind of one of the genres that he felt most connected to it, and kind of had one of the longest kind of continuous experiences with. So so I kind of ended up feeling, or I think that ended up being the most natural fit for us to kind of play together, and the tunes are accessible and fun to play for long periods of time. You know, we pretty much are pretty happy playing tunes for successful lengths of time together. So so yeah, and some of the tunes that we play still I've been playing since I was 9 years old, and so we really have a long attention span in certain ways.
Anything jump to mind?
Hog-Eyed Man, Cold Frosty Morning are two tunes that I know I've learned really early on. Train on the Island, a version of Train on the Island. So
do you know whose version?
I don't exactly. Yeah, So
and was at the beginning? Was it lots of just playing around the house, or did you go with your dad to jam sessions, or were there?
We played a bit around the house, and I started busking at the farmers market when I was in middle school here in town, and so that experience was definitely something where it was fun to get to play out in public and things like that, and a little bit, but it was mostly around the house and playing for friends and relatives and at house parties and things like that.
Right. So because your dad would have house parties and people would come over and play.
Yeah,
at home too.
For sure, and he played in some bands, and so he would kind of let me tag along in his band sometimes, and they wouldn't turn me on in public or anything, but yeah, so he got me playing on stage pretty young.
Right, yeah, middle school.
Yeah, and even younger, actually. So yeah, we played in this weird kind of like hippie dance band, I guess you would call it. I don't know, it's called the Squeeze Tones, and that band I was playing in much younger even, but that wasn't old-time music especially. It was kind of like, there were some old-time tunes, but it was like lots of percussion instruments and accordion a lot of times, and fiddles and bass and drums basically. So yeah.
But you said you only took lessons for a little while. Like, how did you pick up tunes? How do you think you picked up the fiddle?
Well, I took lessons for just a small while, and it's actually with a classical teacher. So between the ages of 7 and 9, I was playing with a classical teacher, but I was terrible at reading music, and my ear was much stronger. And so I learned a lot from recordings, and I learned a lot from playing with my dad and tunes he knew, and then every so often, different jam sessions that we'd end up at, I'd pick some things up. He had a lot of his formative time in old-time music in Austin, Texas, and so we'd sometimes go back there and play with his friends there. And then with some musicians here in Champaign-Urbana, pick up tunes from them as well.
So a lot of times just playing.
Yeah,
playing
basically. Yeah. And a lot of recordings. I learned from a lot of recordings. That definitely is probably like during the summers. I would sit down with recordings and learn the tunes I was excited about.
Did you have a way to slow them down, or just work it out? Just work it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Figure out.
So
that's cool.
I kind of. Yeah, do the best you can and fudge stuff a little bit. And
right. That's the full
usually
method.
Make it work. Yeah.
Right.
So
cool. And now you're doing a lot of playing for a lot of contra dances.
That's correct. Yeah, that's probably, besides playing in random bar gigs in town and playing with friends, that's probably my main musical outlet, is playing for contra dances. So.
And what's the attraction of that? What's the attraction of playing for contra dances?
I really enjoy it because. Yeah, go ahead.
You're good. Sorry. Environment.
I really enjoy it because there's a lot of chance for. I love dancing and I love music and I love like the experience of the synergy between the two different art forms, and how really good music and really good dancing can like really charge each other up with extra energy that neither one can have without really inspiring dancers or music respectively. So I find that the music that I play for dancers is often like can go places that I'm not able to do if I was just sitting home by myself. And that happens at jam sessions too sometimes, for sure. Or if you're just having a really good experience playing with somebody. But if you're having a good experience playing with somebody and there's this extra energy coming off the dance floor, it's a different level of excitement that can occur.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, what do you find so interesting about those? Because I'm always curious what people get addicted to, or what keeps people coming back.
Like,
what do you think why are those experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, what I'm always searching for is this kind of experience of surprising myself, because I feel like a lot of times the best music for me is the moments when I don't feel like I'm actually playing, and it's just like my brain kind of shuts off and music happens, and things that are exciting to me musically happen without my actually like kind of even paying attention. And so my goal in playing music a lot of times is actually trying to figure out ways to turn off the cerebral part of myself and like just try to let all the like combined physical memories and like, you know, harmonic things that could possibly happen, and ideally try to pull from, or things I've heard, and try to pull from all these experiences I've had in the past to like try to synergize something new and exciting that I'm not expecting. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in musical experiences, and that energy coming off a dance floor is one external thing that forces new things. And so playing with other musicians that push you in new directions is something I'm excited about. But so any situation where I am not in control completely is ideal, because that way, you know, I'm pushed and like new ideas are brought to me from the surroundings, either other musicians or the dancers or things like that. So.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Cool. So today you were going to show us a little bit about using the feet and fiddle at the same time.
Yeah.
How did you pick that up?
So like I mentioned, I do some dancing. So I learned a little bit of flat footing at one point, probably about 10 years ago. And then I also, at a music festival, came across some Quebecois musicians who are doing foot percussion. And one of my goals as a musician is basically to try to be as full sounding and self-sufficient as possible, because I feel like if I can carry the music rhythmically and harmonically beyond just the melody, that's something that's really appealing to me. So the drive that the Quebecois musicians are able to provide with their foot percussion just like really inspired me in a pretty major way. And so I kind of asked somebody at one point how it happens, and then I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I never could quite figure out the exact foot pattern, but I thought ended up practicing one that I thought was the correct foot pattern, and ended up not being the correct foot pattern. So I kind of have a slightly different.
It's the Matt Turino foot pattern.
It's my own. Yeah, it's my own odd foot percussion foot pattern that I do, and so it's kind of like probably a weird synergy between some clogging things and the Quebecois foot pattern style. But the rhythm is basically based on the Quebecois foot pattern, and I use it when I'm playing old time tunes or other style of tunes too. I don't play a ton of Quebecois fiddle, so
Right.
I kind of just inserted it into the fiddling style that I do, which is for
Right.
better or worse. Yeah.
The whole process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you happy to play us a tune and show us the feet a little bit?
Sure, I can do that. Sure, I was just gonna play a version of Elzic's Farewell that I learned from a Bubba George recording. So, yeah.
Thanks a lot.
I'm glad you
That was definitely very full. I mean, you could, yeah, it was the rhythm and the harmony and the melody and
Yeah.
everything filled in all at once.
Sure, yeah, and when I play solo fiddle, I usually try, choose tunes that I can add in chordal aspects as well. Like, I feel like certain tunes are much more prone to that, but definitely having, like when I play in D, I usually play in standard tuning because it's nice to have that G chord available and things like that. So I try to like at least hint at chords when I'm playing fiddle by myself.
And you're like actively going away from the melody, and I mean, like not necessarily consciously, but like you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna try and outline the chords here more. And
yeah, or I'll just like I'm doing some triple stops, so that like sometimes like if I'm playing in D and I just play an A and cross A, so it's like all A. But if you're playing, like if I'm playing in D, I'll often like for instance in the B part, beginning of the B part of like Julianne Johnson's a G chord, and so I'll just like make sure to like knock that G note while at the very beginning, just to kind of like be like the chord has changed,
Right.
And so that's something that I definitely try to provide with the fiddle.
Cool. So can you show us, like, very slowly what you're doing with your feet?
Sure. So what I'm doing is for the downbeat, I'm doing a single hit. So this is your downbeat.
Yeah.
and then I'm doing a heel toe between the feet. So it's like. And so if I was doing the traditional Quebecois style of foot percussion, it's their downbeat is actually on the heel. So you're doing. And so I learned that later, but
I see. So it's one offbeat.
Yeah, it's like downbeat, offbeat. So that's the kind of tradition. That's the Quebecois way, and I just kind of. I think it was simple. I always step on the downbeat anyway, so I think that came more naturally to me, and so I. So.
And are you sometimes? Because when I saw you doing it, it sort of looked like I could see you doing two heels. Do you think you're doing that sometimes too?
I don't think so. I think.
So it's always.
Yeah, it's pretty much always heel toe.
Heel toe, foot.
Yeah.
Heel toe, foot. Heel toe.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the Quebecois style has a lot more flexibility to add in more hits and things like that. So they'll even do like a kind of thing and things, and they're a lot more flexible than I am.
Other offbeats and things like that.
Yeah, and they add lots more syncopation and all sorts of cool stuff. So.
But you mainly rock that one pattern.
Pretty much, yeah. That's pretty much the pattern I do, and so I kind of just use it as a rhythmic base to play off of. So, yeah. And
how did you learn it?
I basically decided that I really wanted to do it, and so I sat down with a recording that had Quebecois foot percussion on it, and I basically sat in my living room with it on repeat and basically did the foot part over and over again until it was a muscle memory, and so I don't have to think about it, and it's basically only when I start, stop, or maybe add a slight variation that my brain has to go to my feet. So the rest of the time, once I'm rolling with it, I don't have to think about it at all, and so it's all about developing the muscle memory in such a way that I can just like shut off the brain.
But it is useful to sit higher.
That's just for me because I'm long-legged.
Okay.
And I think for the Quebecois style, it might not be quite as important as in the style that I developed. And so I just found that when I did the foot percussion, the regular chair, my knees were up higher, and so it involved me having to lift my knees, my legs higher. So I do travel around with this foldable stool when I play gigs. And that
and a well-worn piece of plywood.
Yeah, basically a piece of plywood glued to some fabric. So
so you actually glued it on there so that it can't escape.
Yeah, because before I did this, it'd often be kind of like it'd end up being kind of like a typewriter experience where you're like
moving over.
Yeah, because it kind of scoots over as you're doing it. So this fabric basically that I put the stool on top of allows it to be held firm.
Cool.
Yeah. So
excellent.
It's a fun addition to the tunes that I play, and I really like having like my own little rhythm section built in.
Right.
So
yeah, no, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Can I finagle you into playing one more tune before?
Sure.
Thank you.